Pursuing an education abroad is a challenge no matter when you do it. It is especially challenging when you're navigating a master's program in another country during a global pandemic that keeps you from going to classes, meeting classmates, or even entering the country of your university. On today's episode, I speak with 3 Indian architects who are in master's programs in Europe and have had their studies and everyday lives affected by COVID restrictions. My guests are Ammaar Chowdry studying in Italy, Shefali Nayak in Germany, and Yazhni Gokulakrishnan in England. I just wanted to let you know that the Everything Comes Together podcast has a new home online. At everythingcomestogether.com, you can watch full episodes to get the whole story, or you can watch a treasure trove of playlists. On these playlists, a variety of creators from across the country present their experiences and opinions on a set of topics to give you a complete understanding of the work you love. Find out more at everythingcomestogether.com. Yazhni, why don't we start with you? So, what motivated you actually to go and study in the UK where you are now?
Well, I think several things. I think I'll start by saying my reason for studying a master's itself in the first place. So like you rightly said, I mean it all started before COVID-19 pandemic was even a thing. And so I'd finished my architecture in India, and then I had worked for a couple of years. And I mean, I always felt like I've missed out on good quality education. And yeah, I mean, I'm a person who enjoys learning, who is always, even while working, I realized that the best part about it was picking up new things, going into the office every day, and then just doing something new. Okay. So I always knew that I was going to do a master's. And yeah, I mean, so I was working, and then the timing just felt right. I felt like I had enough experience to also know what exactly a master's that I want to do in. So, and then, I applied. Yeah, so that was the reason. And then I started looking at colleges and university courses in different countries. And so the main reason for choosing UK is that they offer 2-year stay back work visa. And okay. I am focused on finding work after studying. So that was my main reason. And also, I think the courses over here really aligned with my interests. And I want to do a 1-year master's. I don't want to do a 2-year master's. So I think it was just several things that contributed collectively towards choosing UK as my place of study.
Okay. And Shefali, how are things for you?
So the frivolous reason is I like the climate here. I'm very comfortable with the climate here. It's too hot in India. So once you have gone out and you have experienced summer here and winter here, and also in winters, they are very climate controlled buildings. So you don't really feel that cold. And I have worked in New Delhi, which goes down to minus, and it's horrible in winters over there. So overall, I think I'm more efficient and happy as a person when I'm comfortable in the temperature. Yeah. So
I think that's a very good reason.
Yeah. So that's
considering the humidity has just kicked in here, so.
So I've also had experience in Vellore, right? So after New Delhi, I was also in Vellore, and the heat would just kill me. And I would feel like it's all my fluid are getting sucked out of me, even though houses were AC, workplace were AC, my car was AC, but still. So yeah, yeah. That's one of the reasons why I'm in Europe. Another reason was I anyway was very much interested in the subject that I'm pursuing right now. It's called resource efficiency in architecture and planning. So it's a little bit more in depth and a little bit more technical beyond sustainable architecture. So it doesn't just deal with designing sustainably, but material life cycles or using water as a resource in urban design. So I just thought that it was a good experience that way to know that if I'm going to go in depth for further, like in PhD, it's a good subject to start with. And the third most important reason is that there's no tuition fees in Germany. And as I have already had a master's from the UK and I've spent a lot, this time I was like, at least I can fund my studies by myself.
Yeah, I think that's the solid reason that until we spoke earlier, I didn't know that Germany had no tuition fees
Germany
at
does
all.
not have tuition fee. I wouldn't say about that for all the subjects, because there are some subjects that are categorically for international students in universities like TU Berlin or TU Munich or Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. So some of the places would have, but 90% of them don't have a tuition fee. You just pay a semester fee, which is fine. Yeah.
And Amar, how about you?
For me, unlike what Yalini said, I had zero intentions of doing masters at all. That was not even in my foreseeable future. I was very well happy practicing in India, but over the course of like whatever experience I was getting is when there were a few aspects of my practice that really intrigued me, and which was the fact that architecture and urban design were perceived as two such separate things. And no matter how much you tried, you could not get to design a building in India that would, in a way, give back to the street or the neighborhood as such. Because, I mean, face it, every building you design in India, you have compound walls on all four sides. So, what is your building contributing to that aspect? So that's when I started doing research, and for me, it was more to understand how is this field practiced and perceived in countries apart from India. And I had a little bit of experience earlier of that. So I started researching on courses that had kind of like a dual focus on architecture and urban design. So because I did not want to do it purely as an M.Arch nor as a master in urban design. So that's when I came across a select few courses that had like a dual combination, of both these things. So it was more to understand where I'm going, and tomorrow when I want to continue practicing, am I going in the right direction, or are there additional possibilities of practicing and perceiving the field in a different way? So I just wanted to explore my capabilities and abilities more. Learning, yes, but for me it was more about how are things perceived there in a different space, which could have also happened if I could have gotten a job here. Like ideally, that was my plan, to try working here to understand. But sadly, you cannot work as an architect in a different country unless you have a degree from there. So in order to do that, I got into masters.
Okay, so which means that if you were a practicing architect here, you wouldn't be able to go and work there unless you got some sort of certification.
So essentially, I interned, like I mean, yeah, I since I'd interned abroad before. Even though I had finished my bachelor's degree, if I go back, I would still be an intern. I could not be hired as an architect. In order to be hired as an architect, I needed an M.Arch degree from there. I had to legally be certified as an architect in whichever country I want to work in. With my Council of Architecture certification, I could not do that. And if I'm not wrong, there are very, very few universities in India whose degree is actually valid elsewhere. If I'm not wrong, CEPT is one, but I'm not sure. I mean, I don't have the facts, but the degree which I had was not valid outside India.
Okay, and you were also talking about having some experience abroad, right? So you have spent some time interning in. I think you were interning in France, and before that, you and Shefali were in. I think you guys met up in the UK some years ago, right?
Right. So 2013. So this is like the biggest coincidence when you told that Shefali was also going to be on board, because the last we met was in 2013. We attended a summer school workshop in University of Lincoln. It was called Rethinking Architecture. And coincidentally, the lines of that was also the same, blurring the lines between architecture and urban design. So that was one experience back in 2013. And in 2015, I interned in Paris for a duration of about 6 months. That was like a part of my undergraduation compulsory internship. The reason why I did that was also I interned for 6 months in Chennai and I interned for 6 months there, and it was more like, how is it different? How are these two practices so radically different from each other?
Yeah, and what did you actually do your internship in Paris for? I mean, I imagine it's not easy to, I mean, it's not common at least to get an internship in another country, right?
It isn't. In fact, I did have to apply to multiple firms. Like, obviously, for them to actually hire, it's not as simple as how it's in India, where you're just like, okay, you're accepted as an intern. They had to send all my details to their labor office, and I had to get insured by the company, etc., etc. Especially since I was not studying there, I did not have a valid visa already to be there. So this company was fairly very nice and kind enough to do that. And I didn't even ask them, and they said, you come in here, and as per the French law, we have to take care of all your expenditure as a student. So I was like, I packed my bags immediately. I mean, if you're going to take care of everything for me, I mean, I was on the next flight out. So
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't I? But it wasn't easy as a process of internship, purely because I was doing all my softwares in French suddenly. I would type up the line command and something else would turn up altogether. So it took me like a good 2 weeks to just get accustomed to that change and the way they functioned. Like, where I interned here in Chennai, all I did was drafting and model making for 6 months. And when I went there, they literally handed over a project to me and said that, you design this project and come back to us and we'll review it for you. So it was quite nice, the fact that even though I was an intern, they kind of treated me as an architect over there. So an experience I've not had before.
And Yazhni, was this a similar experience to what you had when you interned in Dubai?
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar to like Ammar's experience. I think you were treated much more professionally. You were given a lot of responsibilities. When I was in Dubai, I was working on this huge project, which was about several thousand acres, and it was this 5-star luxury hotel that they were building. And there were a lot of people in the project team itself. But even with all that, I still had a lot of things to take away from. And yeah, I mean, they do give you if you don't know something, they would give you the resources for you to train yourself within. Like, for example, if you don't know a new software, then they would point you towards the resources, so you're expected to train yourself in that software, get used to the company's way of working, and then you're also expected to give back and become a part of the team and perform. And overall, it was a very good experience. Even though my time in Dubai was very short-lived, it was just 2 months. I couldn't get a visa extension. But yeah, there was a lot of learning in that 2 months. And it worked out very well. Yeah.
Okay. Shefali, I don't think you did an internship abroad before Germany, right?
No, I didn't do an internship during my bachelor's abroad, but I have another master's degree from UK. Yeah. So when I was there, I was working there as well. Okay. So yeah, but then I was a master's student. So obviously it's fairly different from how I would have been if I were in bachelor's. So I don't know, I cannot probably compare it with Amar or Yazhni's experience, but I had a good experience as well.
Yeah, so I'm very curious about this. I think we will end up doing a few comparisons for you. Because you've had one master's in an English-speaking country and one master's in Germany, right? And both are from good universities. So I think during the course of this conversation, I think we'll be able to at least flesh that out a little bit, because I think language is a big issue with where you are right now. So yeah.
Uh, not in the course, because the course is in English, or within the university. It's outside. Yeah.
It's almost like real world experience is affected because of the language. Okay, so now I think we'll get into the real meat of the conversation. I just wanted to get each of your unique perspectives of how you guys went about getting to where you are today, where you're studying today. Yarni, let's just start with you. You said you started your application process to go and study about a year in advance.
So I think I started my process pretty early, but not as early as I would like, because I'll come on to that later. So I started my process a year before my course officially started, and and the thing is, I think that was still late because I had missed out on a lot of scholarship opportunities because of that. Because if you're aiming for a scholarship, like there is a big Chevening one, and then there are also a couple of other things offered by the Commonwealth Scholarship offered by the British Council. So I'd missed out on all that at that point. But still, I mean, I started, and I took like a good, I think, a month, 2 months to 2.5 months just writing my SOP, because I mean, I wanted it all to be my own words and be my own experiences. And I was also working full time at that time. So my application planning happened after work, from like, 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. in unholy hours. So, I mean, but I would say like it was quite challenging to balance both. But I mean, like, and I think it's also very important, for you to like write your own SOP, because I know some of my friends who have gone on to study masters where they've like seen examples from the internet, and then they've tried to like incorporate that. But if you're aiming for a scholarship, or if you want your application to get noticed, I think it's best to just write your own, own reflections of your own journey. So I took like 2 months to write SOP, and then I took I think a month and a half to apply to all the universities that I wanted to get into. I wasn't looking at any other countries, because from very early on I fixated on UK. So I mean, that way, it was pretty straightforward. And then, so once I finished all the first set of applications for all the universities, then there was separate application procedure for scholarships as well. So that came after, and that took a good month and 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, and so tell me, why did you choose this particular university? What really singled this one out?
Well, I think mainly the scholarship. I got a 50% of my tuition scholarship to study on this course. So it was mainly that, and up until the final, just before like finally deciding, I was conflicted between this university and also another one, and also University of Kent, because I had gotten a scholarship there as well. Okay. And but then, the course modules were also very similar. So, but I think here there was a better scholarship, and also it's a bigger university. And another thing that actually prompted me towards choosing this is the city itself. So I'm studying in University of Bath. I don't think I've mentioned that. Yeah. So Bath is a very beautiful place, and it's very quaint. It has this old world charm towards it, and these are the things that I think personally I preferred this over like big cities, and so that's one of the reasons.
Amar, why don't we also hear from you about your experience? Because I think you had actually done a lot of research work about what actually has to happen and what people can do to go and study abroad.
Right. So for me, my whole process started a good year and a half before I actually planned to go. And coincidentally, you were one of the people who actually like initiated that because you had mentioned to me that Shreya had gotten the Fulbright scholarship. And so that's when I wanted to get in touch with you. And she actually helped me a lot in trying to understand. So for me, the thing was, I had one thing quite clear in mind that I did not want to spend a penny on education anymore. So for me, I knew bachelor's was a necessity, but beyond that, I was not ready to spend an exorbitant amount of money on my master's. So all my applications were more focused towards getting a scholarship, and then the second layer was actually which course. So I did a lot of filtration this way. It was like a month or two's of worth of research where I narrowed down all of the universities that had a course which was in line with my architecture and urban design thing, and which of these universities actually offered a 100% scholarship, and which narrowed me down to about 12 or so. And I did not restrict myself to just a couple of countries. Like I was okay with it being anywhere. So yeah, I started it say around September 2019 is when I started. So March of 2018 is I started my whole process of the application. So the research gave me good enough time because I knew when my scholarship dates are, and usually when you're looking at say 100% scholarship, you need to apply well 1 year in advance to the commencement.
Where exactly did you get all this information about each university scholarship? How much, whether they give you a full scholarship or a part scholarship. Is there any one place where you got this information?
So there are two kinds of scholarship essentially. One is a university given one, and one is an external sources where you can get it. Most of the time, if I'm not wrong, very very few universities give you 100%. So if you want to go for a 100%, you need to go for an external source of scholarship. Like how Yalni was mentioning, you had the Chevening scholarship or the Commonwealth. Those are also some of the ones that I applied to. Apart from that, one very good resource I could find was the Ministry of External Affairs website, that is Indian Ministry of External Affairs. If you go in there, you actually have an education tab that lists down what are the possible scholarship that every country in the world has to offer. So, yeah, so if you actually go in there, everything along with the deadline and all of that. So, usually, how these scholarships function are they are done jointly with the Ministry of External Affairs. So, it's like the government of such so and so country partners up with the Indian government and selects a n number of students from the country who are eligible for that scholarship. And every scholarship is targeted towards a specific course. Like some scholarships are only for aeronautical, for instance, some only for architecture, some purely for computer engineering. So I spent a good 1 week in the website of Ministry of External Affairs trying to find out the different government related, because most of the government related ones are 100% scholarship. And that's when I came across multiple ones, of which one scholarship is what I got. So the research aspect is a lot, but the thing is there are so many scholarships that are available which many people don't know. In fact, towards the end of it, I have like a huge Excel file created country-wise split, which says which email address you need to submit, what are the documents you need to do. You need to submit alongside each of these and all that. So now if someone asks me this, I have an Excel file ready that I can, send it across to them. So that's
Well,
why I think
maybe
the
if
one and a
you
half
can,
year.
I can include that in the episode description.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, can I just say that after this, I think a lot of people are going to send you a request and ask you to share with them the Excel sheet.
Right. So, yeah. So that was I think for me the process was a little bit longer purely because of that. The applications for the university, in comparison to what I'd been through for the scholarship, was actually very very simple. Because what you mainly need is an SOP, and like Yalni rightly mentioned, the SOP is like I think crucial. I did almost 35 drafts of an SOP till I finally reached one. Yeah. And Shreya criticized a lot of those drafts, by the way. And I sent it to her as well. So I sent it to multiple people. And finally, after getting everyone's input, it took me a good 3 months to get my SOP right. So yeah, I think finally I started in March. I finished my applications in December of 2018 to start my course of September next year.
Fantastic. And to Yarni and Shefali, Shreya that he's talking about is my wife who got a Fulbright scholarship. So they were Amar and Shreya had something to talk about in terms of applications and everything like that. So what scholarship did you actually end up with, Amar?
So this one is called Invest Your Talent in Italy. It's a scholarship that is jointly given by the Ministry of External Affairs of Italy and India. And essentially, what it does is there are a select few. It's not just architecture. I think they have around 10 courses for which you're eligible to do that. There are some criteria. You need to be under 27 in order to be eligible for that. And the application process was very simple. I had to submit a 1 minute video convincing them why they should give me a scholarship. Nothing else. No portfolio, no SOP. A 1 minute video of you talking, convincing them. So if you're able to convince them in 1 minute, it's yours. So that was quite tricky because when it's a SOP, you can write how much ever you want, right? You can give this thing. But when you have to talk everything within 60 seconds, it was quite tricky. And it took around 10-15 takes to actually get that right. Essentially, what the scholarship covers is your entire tuition fee, and it gives you a stipend of 1,000 euros every month for your entire duration of your course. So it essentially takes care of your rent, your food, etc., etc. And the only clause in the scholarship was that I have to intern free of charge for a period of 300 hours at any Italian company. That was the only clause from my end, because their idea is to get talent from outside the country to work for them, is essentially what. And if the company does like you, they would like to take you on full-fledged after that. I mean, that's, I think, their main focus. So yeah, that was the one that I got. Like I said, there are many others in different countries also that you can apply to. I did apply to, but I only got like two or three of them, of which I chose Poland, like Milan, right?
And I suppose why you chose this particular college is because you were getting a full scholarship to go and study there.
I was getting a full scholarship. One, yes. Second, for my course, Polytechnico is ranked world number 10, and the that was higher than the other universities that I got in were AA School of Architecture. Then I got into Manchester, and then there was Berkeley, UC Berkeley. But UC Berkeley, the even after the scholarship, the expenditure was way too high. It was two factors boiled down: the ranking of world number 10 in architecture, and second, the fact that I literally could leave without spending a single penny from my pocket. So I think those two clubbed together was the deciding factor.
Yeah, and like Yarni said, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who will reach out to you after this to get your take on how to go. Shefali, I think since you were studying in Germany and you were applying for that, you had a little bit more of a streamlined process, right? With Uni Assist.
Yeah. So if you have to make an application in any of the university in Germany, it goes through a common portal that's called Uni Assist. So you have to use their services because that's what German universities want. Because I think it's a fairly new one in the last decade, I guess. Before you were able to make direct applications, so you as German universities want you to send them your documents, your notarized documents. So it goes to you. You can apply into multiple universities through one portal, and you have to send one set of documents. You don't have to send multiple documents. So Germany still is kind of old school with the printed out copies and cash, and yeah, they're still in that area. They want to see things hard in their hand. So Uni Assist helps in filtering out people with basically the basic eligibility criteria and qualifications. And then it gets sent to the university, and the university then chooses 20 or 25 people out of the 100, 200 applications that do get qualified.
And I think I think there were two steps to it, right? So one part is online and one part is offline. Like you said, you needed the hard copies of your documents to reach them. Now, when you apply using UniAssist, is it a single application and they filter it down to the colleges, or do you have to apply to the individual colleges through UniAssist?
So in the online portal, you have to make different applications to different universities, and it gets kind of stored within it. But when you post them just one set of documents which they need to verify of what you have told them about, for example, with your bachelor's degree. And also German universities, depending on also the course, they have different cutoffs for your GPAs. And we have a 10-point scale GPA in India, but in Germany, they have a different kind of scale. So they have a 5-point scale, 1 to 5. 1 being the best, 5 being fail. Yeah, it's opposite. And also it's 3 divisions between each number. So 1.3, 1.6, and then 2, and then 2.3, 2.63. It's like that. So they need to convert your GPA into their format to see if you are kind of qualifying for what their cutoff GPA is for the university.
Okay. And how did you particularly choose this university? What was your motivating factor here?
I actually chose the subject. There was a similar subject in Stuttgart University and also Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, where I had.
And could you just say what your subject is as well?
It's called REAP, Resource Efficiency in Architecture and Planning. Okay. So it is not architectural, core architectural. It is more on the sustainability management line of architecture. So it's.
I think this is also why some scholarships wouldn't apply to you, right?
Yes, because the core architecture scholarships don't apply to me. So you have to apply for more like entrepreneurial scholarships or something that is more generic, or something that they have, which DAD has a special category of scholarship towards sustainability studies in whatever. So that applies. But and there are also scholarships specifically for like innovative thesis awards and stuff like that. But the architectural DAD scholarship does not apply for this.
Okay, so getting back to what you were saying, your particular course is a bit unique to the university you're at right now.
Yes.
And does this allow you to also? I think you mentioned this that you wanted to be able to extend this to a PhD. You wanted the option to be able to extend it at least. And how many years is the PhD program once you join in?
So the minimum is 3.5 years, but there is no like maximum limit. You are not done with your PhD until you are not done with your PhD. So that's one good thing in Germany as well. Yeah, you do it right. You don't do it within this time.
Okay.
So, and another good thing about the university that I'm in is they usually support practical PhDs, which are kind of connected with think tanks or government bodies as like a research program that they're working towards. And a lot of the smaller branches are kind of the whole picture for climate adaptive architecture. And Germany kind of has a goal of Germany 2050 carbon neutral. So whatever they have to do from whatever side, they fund it and they try and get it done. So yeah, and the thesis that I'm going to work is kind of going to revolve around water resource management.
Okay. And I think that's a super useful thing right now, especially here where.
Oh, the interesting thing is my site is Chennai.
Okay. So what you talked about the weather being very conducive to you in Europe is not going to apply at all if Chennai is in your sights.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it also came up with the whole problem that Chennai has two extremes. Like it has flooding and it has drought back to back. Yeah. And somehow there is this challenge of water resource not being managed right when there is flooding and letting it go into the Bay of Bengal and Indian Ocean, and then there is immediate drought. What can be done in like the urban context where it works out? So yeah, more or less it's in that direction.
You mentioned also that not only do scholarships not apply to the course you're doing, but that was offset by the fact that there is no tuition fee in Germany, especially for the course that you're studying right now. So that must have helped you also along the way, right? But now, as part of that, what do you actually pay anything to the university?
So if there were a scholarship that I would have got, then it would have been a lump sum amount that goes to you. Okay. Yeah. So it's because there's no tuition fees. So it's just you get a lump sum amount, like 5,000 euros or 10,000 euros, and and that probably would go towards my living cost. Okay. Yeah. Okay. However, it's different in case of UK or like Ammaar said with Milano, where it goes into tuition fees as well as a stipend. So here the scholarship would have worked out different. Now that I anyway had decided upon Germany because of no tuition fee criteria, is because I didn't want to be dependent on scholarship. I was like, okay, even if I don't get one scholarship, I am not going to not go. And yes, I do pay a certain fee to the university, which is called as a semester registration fee. Okay. And it is different in different universities depending where the university is at. If it's a small town, it's much lower. It's based on the standard of living of the city. As I'm in a metropolitan, which is Hamburg, so my fees is 330 euros a semester.
Okay. And what does that include?
That also covers a lot of discounts for students in different places. And it also includes my metro, bus, all sorts of public transport pass for the whole semester. So basically, I am paying for that. Yeah,
and that's really essential to get around as well.
Yeah. And as I am in Hamburg, and there are about like 8 to 10 universities here, it covers the whole of Hamburg and also the vicinity of Hamburg district, which is not Hamburg city, for travel. But if you were in a smaller city, so for example, Hanover is slightly smaller and it's about like an hour from Hamburg. So if you were in the University of Hanover, you would be able to come to Hamburg for free as well. Okay. Because their idea is for the students to be able to access libraries as much as possible. So Hamburg being a big city, having its own, having about 15 libraries, they didn't think that, okay, Hamburg students will need to go out, but Hanover students can access Hamburg library. Also, with this fee that you pay, you can use library resources or hiring of books or whatever from any university or any national library, like central library. So it has a lot of perks in it.
So now that we know how you guys actually got to your universities, the application process, scholarship process, and so on, I would like to talk about the campus experience. And Ammaar, you told me something very there was one particular sentence that you used which I found very interesting, which is your master's education is about 80% the experience of studying there and 20% the education while studying there. Could you just talk a little bit about what you enjoyed about that campus, and how has it changed as well? We'll start first with how it was before COVID. We'll go into COVID a little bit later.
Okay, so I mean, the campus experience mainly was I was studying in Miyasi in India, so we had a 9 to 4 college, or it was like school, and then at 4:30 you're supposed to leave the campus. And here it's the campus is open 24/7. You walk in when you want. You don't have like a strict timetable, like a class timing. Like if it gets over at 2, you leave at 2. You stay back, you work, and one I don't know if this is there with other universities. With Polymy, every project has to be done in a group. You don't do it alone. So just the fact that, and a lot of professors also had the thing that you should not group with people of your country. So by default, like I had a group which was with one Iranian person, one Chinese person, someone from Turkey, someone from Spain. You're like trying to understand how the same project brief is being solved by multiple people, of different contexts. And when you're sitting in campus in the same table and solving something, it's like really, really different versus, when you're doing the same thing across this way, on a screen. So I think that was probably the most interesting aspect of the campus experience, just meeting people who it was the same solution, but the approach to that solution was so widely different. And also, like how I had said before, the university did not have a compound wall. There was no this thing where the university ended and the city began. And I think this is something to do with every European university where you don't know where your campus is ending and then your commercial area starts or your residential area starts. And just the fact that to move from one class to the other, I had to maybe walk a kilometer to go. And these were all experiences that I hadn't dealt before, because Miyasi was literally a G+2 building, with no campus at all. And with regard to me saying that a master's is 80% experience and 20% the education, especially for me, the fact, I don't think, I know this may seem a little controversial, but I haven't learned a single thing new in my master's. Nothing that I already knew, did not know before. Purely because I feel I'm doing a course that's architecture and urban design, unlike Shefali, who's doing something like completely different, and it's new. It's not something that's taught to us in our undergraduation, etc. So it was all just the idea of perceiving this, getting to the same solution, but in a different manner and in a different methodology. That experience was pretty much what it was for me.
Yeah, I think that's really so what you just said, right? I think is quite common across multiple people that I've spoken to as well, who talk about the fact that it's not necessary that they learn something new, but the way they learn it is different. The way they experience what they're learning is different, and probably even your outdoor experiences on campus is quite different than what you'd experience here.
Right, definitely, yeah. And also just the professors, like I remember I was telling this to you earlier that one very interesting thing about my course is that they allot you 10 credits every year. Those 10 credits have to be fulfilled, but I don't have to do anything architecture related. I can go to the mathematics department and take a studio which is mathematical, or I can go to a physics department or to any department. So I have the freedom of studying something that's not necessarily architecture or urban design. So I think that fills the gap of, how are you trying to do something different than what you are. So I think that level of, openness, like, where you don't have to study only this, like how we are used to in our Indian universities, I think they are a little bit more free. They don't think you need to only study this in order to get your degree.
Okay. And Shefali, I think the campus that you're on is, as you said, it was an urban campus. And I guess it was not sprawling grounds that extend into the city and things like that, right? You're very much a part of the city.
Yeah. You have reached Hafen City when the metro station is called Hafen City University. So that's
Yeah.
you get out of that, you walk like about 200 meters, and there's your building. But the building is not like going too vertical. It is about 4 floors high, but it's also kind of spread out, and it is in the harbor. So one side is you see ships and other things going, and there's like a space for students to sit, and that's attached to the canteen, which is called Mensa here. And rest others are divided into departments. And it's a very Bauhaus looking building.
Yeah, it's a very striking building.
Yeah. So very, very international style. Yeah.
I think also this is a good time to ask you and Ammaar about your experiences as things changed, right? So before COVID, it was probably a bit more open. You would have been able to have your studios and your lectures and everything like that in person, right? And there would have been a lot more social interaction. Ammaar, so I heard about what was happening with you a little earlier than I heard about what's happening with Shefali. That you came back in your second semester because of COVID last year, right? So
Yeah.
how hard was it for you to come back and study from here?
It was honestly, I would say, the two best semesters of my master's. I did it online. So I honestly discount those two semesters as they were kind of worthless because of the fact that my two studios of semester two and semester three, one was supposed to be an on site work in Venice, and the second was supposed to be an on site work in Marrakesh in Morocco. And I did the same work on Google Maps. So the entire those two semesters were supposed to be going to Venice or going to Morocco and understanding the site, physically experiencing it, and then giving your proposals. And none of that happened. Though I've never visited either of the two cities, and I just had to go through YouTube and video blogs and try to get my interpretation of those, and then give out a proposal. And also, what happened was this was the first time that any of these professors were actually doing an online course. So for them, they have also been teaching the same course so many years as a physical studio, right? Like, you go, they come to site with you and teach you. It was very difficult for them also to translate the same thing in an online manner. Even they were learning how to do it. So I would say it wasn't possible to do that. Like we probably achieved only 30% of the result that we had hoped to achieve had it been an in-person studio. So especially for those two semesters, I was very unlucky where the teaching aspect was it wasn't it, and I don't blame them because they couldn't do anything. There's only so much even they can give you over a laptop. So yeah, I think that that specific thing was quite difficult to do it online.
And now, for your final semester, you're back in Milan.
Yes. For my final semester, I'm back in Milan. Unfortunately, my final semester is my thesis and my internship. This semester, I could have done it online very easily. But it just so happens that I've come for this, but purely because I had the last semester. I wanted to be here, at least use the university campus in terms of libraries, laboratories, workshops, etc. So yeah, I am here. So I hope to be done. I only have like 4 months left of my course now.
Okay, and Shefali, you never came back to India at all, right? You stayed there throughout.
I did not come back because it wasn't. I think maybe because Germany, it wasn't as bad as it was in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they somehow were able to manage somewhat where it wasn't going off the charts and crazy. So, and Hamburg was also kind of one of the big cities that was least affected.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they say that Germans stereotypically are very orderly. So if there's a rule, they're strictly following it. There's no crazy things happening, and they police each other also for following it. Yeah. So
I guess that's a good thing.
Very good thing, very good thing. Very boring, but very good thing. Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't have to go back. And like Amar said, it was similar with me. My last semester was supposed to be in Niš, Serbia. And it was an on-site project, which we did online with also it was kind of like a collaborative project with the Niš School of Technology and from their architecture department. So we had Zoom meetings and we would ask our tandem group over there, and it was also group, to go take pictures of the site and ask them questions and ask them to go to the site and get us the information so that we can work on it. So yeah, we managed how much ever resources were at hand with that. And even we could understand that it was a challenge for our professors too, because it was their first experience. So when I was interviewed for my position for next semester, the first thing the professors are saying, can you come up with more interactive things that we can do over Zoom so that it's more like a more better learning experience? So I can understand them asking that and then saying that, okay, as you have also had the very recent experience, it would be really nice where you can give us feedback on how we can make the whole learning and the whole design approach more like entertaining and not boring, and people are trying to like switch off the camera and move away from the screen kind of thing. And I was like, okay, I will work on that definitely. And yesterday, we're still working on our final project report. So yesterday I was at my friend's place and she was saying, can you believe it? We all had jobs. We all had we all left our jobs and came into a full-time master's for a college university life, and we are sitting in front of the computer. If we knew this, we would be still working, right? And I was like, yeah, that's true.
Yazhni, I think you have a unique start to your master's where you started your master's during COVID. I think it was in November, was it?
That's right. Yeah. It was end of September. Yeah.
Okay, and end of September, and you started actually studying your master's online from India.
Right. Yeah.
So, what was? Just talk me through how you managed to get started once you actually reached England, and what has that experience been like? Have you been able to experience the campus at all?
Well, yes and no, because when I started my master's in India, my master's course deals with energy efficiency, deals with net zero buildings, and we also learn about the strategies that would reduce carbon emissions from buildings. So it is a very technical course, and unlike Amar said about knowing all these concepts, I didn't have. I mean, whatever I'm learning, whatever I have learned, everything was completely new. So while I was in India, I think, that was okay. It was okay to do it online because it is a very individualistic course where you have to learn these things and you have to pick up on these concepts and you have to go to library and you'll have to improve your knowledge. So, and our professors also encourage that. They also encourage self-study. So in our first semester, how it basically structured is, our first semester is where we are being introduced to all these technical concepts. And the second semester, we have a multidisciplinary project that we work with not just people in my course, but then people in the other courses in the department. Like, for example, in my team, we'll have somebody from conservation, and then we'll have somebody from structure and materials, and then we'll have somebody else from modern building design, and then somebody else from my course. So all of these different disciplines together collectively work on a project brief.
So that will be my second semester, which I have just started. It's been a week. And my third semester is going to be a final dissertation. So when I was in India, I was in India for a short time. I think 1.5 months after into my first semester, I moved over here. So which wasn't too bad, to be honest, because like I said, I mean it was all these like new concepts, and you can wrap around your head anywhere in the world. Yeah. But I would say one negative thing was sort of like, relating to the context all these is being talked about, because it is a course where our very first lecture was in climate change. So, and it's a course that requires you to understand, the context and the different climatic conditions around the world. So yeah, I mean, while our professors were talking about heating dominated climate, in India, we have a cooling dominated climate. So even though you can look up charts online and you can try to go into Google Map and understand everything that's happening, but I think the experience is much more fruitful if you experience it yourself, so that, yeah, you sort of, understand and you can relate to whatever you're studying better. So I felt that I was able to relate to things better after coming to the UK. And I mean, and settling down wasn't too much of a hassle. Yeah, because I mean, I think luckily, we're all living at a time where technology and communication has become, has become hugely important, and it's right there at the forefront of things. So yeah, it wasn't too difficult, moving, and yeah, it had its challenges. Like, I didn't get my visa on time, and I don't live in a university accommodation, so I live in a private accommodation. So coming here and setting up everything from broadband to electricity to water and everything, making calls. UK actually has terribly long waiting period for calls. So just doing all that was challenging. Yeah, but I mean, I think once it all settles down, then it gets better. Yeah. I mean, with that being said, I don't know. I don't know how the next semester is going to be, because, like I said, we are working on a multidisciplinary project, and I think, for a project like this, the campus experience that Ammaar and Shefali were talking about is very important. So, and it looks like things are going to open again soon. So let's wait and see how that works out. Yeah.
Well, let's hope. I think now this is something that I can ask all three of you about. What's it been like with your relationship with your peers, the other guys in your course? Have you been able to bond with them? Have you been able to build those friendships, or is it still a bit restricted?
I mean, for me, luckily, I was there for a good 5 months before COVID started, so I was able to make, yes, in terms of friends, quite a lot from different backgrounds. I could and purely because we were made to work in groups, right? So you're meeting new people in literally every studio. So I was quite lucky, and it was only in the first semester that I managed to make friends. And after the other two semesters, when you're online, you're not meeting anybody new at all, because you're sitting on, in your own room. So luckily, that at least I'm grateful that there was at least one semester where I could interact with people.
Okay. What about you, Shefali?
Yeah, I mean, I have been here the whole time, and all the semesters we have one project that is group work. So, yeah, we have. I have been able to make pretty good friends. I think the social life got affected because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, even when it was like summer, people were barbecuing, people were out, and there's a river over here, so they do water sports. So I have had whatever I could have got the best out of it. So yeah, pretty fortunate in that. But if I would have to compare this with when I was in Edinburgh, then definitely massive difference, because also there's a cultural difference between German people and Scottish people.
Yeah.
So I think culturally this country is slightly introverted. You will take some time to like warm up to them. So I have really close German friends, but it took me a while before I was in the inner circle with them and I was close to them. Unlike in the UK, and I don't know about Italy, but Italians are pretty, warm and welcoming. So I guess that would be one thing, especially which is a cultural aspect.
So I think you were telling me while we spoke for the pre-interview that you guys had a group text with all your classmates and things like that, and it's pretty much stayed the same now, right?
So I think, making friendships, I would say definitely I have made friends. But I think the process were a bit delayed because in the beginning, how everybody was sort of like getting used to the whole online, a way of online method of teaching. Even though some of my course mates were in Bath, they weren't able to go to the university because England had its restrictions. People were able to go only once a week. But yeah, so in the beginning, it was just like, people logging in when there is a class and then people logging off when the lecture gets over. But I think, like I said earlier, we are all well connected in this age. So we have like a WhatsApp group chat, and consciously we all made it a point to have private Zoom sessions amongst ourselves without the university or without the lecturer involved, and that has worked out great. And we also once I got over here, I think I met a lot of my classmates also, and so one thing that actually surprised me through all this COVID experience is our ability to adapt. I think everybody has, adapted quite well. And my course also, we're 11 in my class, and all of us actually come from different parts of the world. So meeting them was really nice because I got like an insight into their cultures and the different things, their way of approaching different things. So that was really nice. I don't have like a experience to compare it to, like how Ammaar and Shefali had pre-COVID campus experience. But doing it like digitally is pretty good, I would say. Yeah.
I have one quick question. You don't need to elaborate too much on it. This is for you, Yazhni and Ammaar, because both of you actually have studied your course online from India and then online in the city or the country where you are at right now. Is there too much of a difference between the two?
No, here the only difference is that tomorrow, if I want to work, post my studio hours, I can still meet my group mates and work, because they're all in Milan. But there, even if I had to work with them, I still had to do that, over the Microsoft Teams app, and I couldn't like meet or design together. That's probably the only difference. The fact that all of us are in the same place.
Also, the time difference would be a challenge.
Definitely. Last semester there was one group member of mine who was in Canada, and I was in India, and then there was one more in Milan. So it would take us so long to just schedule one time where everybody could be awake and can actually attend the call.
Yeah, I think that is what I did not face as a problem. That even though our classes were online and everything, in Germany the rules were you can meet 2 households at a time. 2 households with maximum 5 people. This was before things got a little crazy. So we were 4 people in a group, and we were 3 households. We were like, whatever, we are meeting at somebody's kitchen table, and whoever had the biggest place, and we will sit together and work together. So somehow we did manage to do it, if not in campus, in somebody's kitchen table.
Yeah, just one thing to add on to this is I think, doing it online over here, is slightly advantageous because you have the university's library, and which is open 24/7. And once your class gets over, and if you feel like you've got too much screen time, and if you want to take a break, but at the same time, if you've got work to do, you can always go to the library, and you can meet people in campus as well, which is good, because I think any day physical learning, and it's much better than doing it online. So yeah.
So now that two of you, Shefali and Ammaar, you're in countries where English is not the primary language, could you briefly just mention just a couple of things that people need to take into account if they want to come and study in something like Germany or Italy? Shefali?
With Germany, I can say that if somebody is planning on coming here, even if the course is in English, I would very sternly suggest to at least get an elementary level of German knowledge, because the signboards, everything is in German. You should know what is the alternative. Like if you go into a grocery store, everything is in German. So to get a clarification of which aisle is for what. And also there are similarities between English language and German language. So elementary should not be that hard. And there are so many institutes like Goethe in India where you can get that thing done, or Deutsch Academy maybe in consulates. You can go for classes, and it should take about 4 weeks for each level. A1 being 4 week, and A2 maybe 6 weeks. So it should be done within 2 months. If you're going for a technical subject, then B1 will be okay with that, because it's fine. But if you are going for a subject that requires you to do a little more research and writing, then they would need you to get at least a B2 level. And B1 and B2, each level probably takes 6 weeks to master, or at least get used to it. Mastering is long. It's not going to be crazy difficult because everyone speaks in English over here. They know how to speak in English, but you will always have to prompt them into switching their language for your comfort. Sometimes it's you feel like, okay, I'm being bored, and they're obviously comfortable in English, German. So it's best to know the language. And if you plan on staying here and working,
then you definitely need to know the language.
Yeah, definitely. Even if you're in an industry which is international and does not require German language, still the day-to-day conversations, emailing, and all those things are appreciated in German. So if you don't know German at all, it's going to be very difficult.
Ammaar, how are things for you in Italy?
It's literally exactly what Shefali said. It's the same thing. I think that's something that's quite common with all non-English speaking European countries. Even with professors, though they may talk to you in English, their English may not be as strong as their Italian. So an Italian person may be able to explain his concepts easier to them, and it might be like the communication may be a little more slow. So if you're coming here, you can put in the extra effort to maybe learn a little. I don't think the consulate in the case of Italy offers anything, but you have a lot of private spaces where you can learn Italian.
I'm sure Ammaar's university also offers it. My university offers German language courses.
Yes, it does for international students. Yeah.
I had an A1 level of knowledge in German, and I was like, okay, I'll see what happens. So because my university offers it, I could take it. So there's that option as well. But it's always better to have that knowledge and come here and because if central station is called Hauptbahnhof. It's nowhere close to the word central station or main station, so somebody's giving you a direction of how to reach somewhere, basic things. It just is slightly challenging.
Yeah. Yarni, I think since you are right now in England and language isn't really a big issue for you, I also wanted to start with you on the next question, which again will come to all of you. Is that as you're all foreign students staying in another country, some foreign students need to get some sort of a part-time job. Is that possible on your visa or where you are?
So in the UK, in England, where I am currently, I'm on the Tier 4 visa, so which gives you 20 hours to work part time when you're a student, and this 20 hours is during term time, and during vacations you get to work 32 hours. And yeah, once your course is done, then you get a stay back visa of 6 months. And after that, the UK government has announced this new program where you can apply for a 2 year stay back visa. For a 2 year work visa, which is a new application in itself. It's not you cannot extend it on the current visa that you have. So yeah, that application starts in June. And another way of getting a visa is also through the company that you find work in. Certain companies are licensed sponsors. So yeah, if you're working in one company, you can request for a visa.
Okay. What about you, Shefali? I think you also had some experience working, right? But I think language is still an issue when you need to even get a part-time job.
The place I was working, it wasn't really because I was working on technical things. So, but obviously they understood that I don't know that much of German. So as far as I could understand, they would speak, but then they switch. So obviously they would be accommodating. Same thing. I have like 3 hours work permission for within the week, and you can work anything less than 20 hours. It doesn't have to be 20 hours exactly. And when your term time is not there, you can work full time, which is 40 hours a week.
Okay. Now, Amar, I know you aren't working there right now while you're studying, but I thought just a quick question about about how if foreign students are allowed to stay back and work after your course is done. Is that allowed when you're studying in Italy?
Yeah, it's allowed. Same thing. 1 year is what you're allowed to stay back and work as per your visa. And if within that 1 year time you're able to get a contract that extends out to how many ever years, I think it's pretty much the same, like quite similar.
The last single question to all three of you, which is, since most of the audience of this podcast are young architects or architecture students or young photographers or photography students for that matter, who may be either finishing their bachelor's and maybe looking for their master's, or they already have a couple of years of experience. What do you think potential Indian students what's the one thing that you feel is something that they can look forward to if they were to come and study in Europe or specifically where you are? Shefali?
Definitely a higher standard of student and teacher interaction, because the accountability is from both sides. It's not just students who get rated for exams or whatever performance. It's whoever is teaching does also get rated. I That was similar in VIT. So we do rate our teachers about how the semester went by with subjects and whatever, and they take their feedback into serious consideration. It's not just for the sake of it. So definitely that's there, and you will get a lot of good technical support in terms of softwares and whatever is required for your studies. Similarly, library resources. Also, my university had it already had a library online, but due to Corona, where they were restricting students in the library physically as well, they have completely moved online as well. So there are a lot more resources that you can access to from the university library, and you can also get access to papers that are in Elsevier or ResearchGate or Academia or JSTOR, which you would, if you would try individually, would probably have to pay, but from your university account, it's free for you. A lot of academic research work you'll get access.
Yarni, I think when we spoke earlier, you were talking about a slightly different approach to the teaching that you had experienced when you went there.
Yeah. I think this might sound boring, but then one thing that you can look forward to is the disciplined way of things. When I say disciplined, I mean like, structured systems and structured method of study, or even like, when it comes to work, I think things here are much more structured. So it almost like, makes your life as a student very easy, because yeah, I mean, like, there is a tried and tested method of study and which is suggested to you, so you just have to like, follow that and make the best use of it. And I would say another thing to look forward to, I think it's, it's a very pretty landscape, and the change of environment is always very good. And especially if you're in a technical course, I think like, it helps to be over here and apply the things that you're learning, or even if it's not a technical course, even if it's a design course. I think in a field like architecture, it's all about, the experience and the exposure that you get from, everything, right? From meeting people, or from experiencing a new culture, or it can even be like, eating a different food. I think yeah, what I'm trying to say is, there are a lot of sources for you to get inspired from. And also there are a lot of opportunities here, I would say. Yeah, I mean, like, if you want to, opportunities that suit like your interests, like for example, if you're somebody who's like, interested in let's say like winemaking, or like, even going on a skyline tour or something like that. Yeah, then yeah, you have the opportunity to sort of like indulge in all that. And these things eventually will give you like, the break away from your academics. And yeah, overall I think it makes it a fun experience. Yeah.
Okay. Amar, anything to add?
I mean, I I don't mean to be like snobby, but have you seen that Instagram meme of what people think students do abroad versus what they actually do? Is
Yeah.
basically, please don't glorify studying abroad. It's nice, but the thing you should look forward to is don't look forward to too much. Okay, it's not gonna be like starkingly different. Like, you're not gonna get your minds blown and all of that. It is an experience. Whether it is a good experience or a bad experience is up to you. Okay, and don't, like, if you come in and you say like, I've come for the course and the course is going to be amazing, I'm sorry, you're going to be disappointed. You come into your masters, it's almost like a ticket to come into a different country, and what you do with that ticket is up to you. You come and just sit in class and go back home. There's nothing to look forward to, honestly. Like Yalini was saying, there's multiple other aspects to the whole thing. And education wise also, it's good, it's something new. How it's gonna probably help you is completely in your hands. So a lot of, like, 80% of the people I know have not been satisfied with their masters, purely because they went with such a high expectation that, oh, I'm going to go here and study. It's not going to be that amazing. It's all in your hands, like, to actually build something out of it. So I would say, honestly, look at what your 5-year goal plan is before you actually decide to come into your master. If you come in without having like what is it that you're coming in for, then it's kind of like futile, in my opinion.
I think that's a really pragmatic way to end this conversation. And I think we've spoken so much, right? The three of you guys have talked so much and so in such detail about what people can expect. I think if anyone comes away from listening to this being super excited about going to study abroad, they're probably going to have a good experience because it's a well-balanced conversation. So thank you guys very much. It was a lot of fun talking to you, and some of you have all three of you I'm reconnecting with after a while. And Ammaar, you're the first return guest on the podcast, so you have that honor. And thank you guys so much. Well, that's our show for this week. You can find links to get in touch with my guests in the episode description below on YouTube, or if you're listening to the audio podcast, just swipe or tap over the cover art. You can watch other full episodes and curated playlists at everythingcomestogether.com. Please subscribe to Sreenag Pictures on YouTube, or you can listen to the audio podcast by subscribing to Everything Comes Together on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and leave a 5-star review. If you like this episode, please tell a friend about it and help get the word out about this show. The music for this podcast was composed by Ashray Harishankar from Escapist Music, post-production by Thiruvikraman Srinivasaraghavan, and production assistance by Abdul Jeelani. Until we meet again with another fascinating guest, you can reach me on Instagram @Sreenag or at everythingcomestogether.com. Have a good day.